Thank you. I call the Honourable Member Meka Waitere. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Tēnā koe te whare tū mai nei. Tēnā tātou katoa. Tuhoe mana, tuhoe reo, tuhoe tangata, karanga mai, karanga mai, karanga mai. Karanga mai ngā tini aitua, kua wehi atu I te pō, haere, haere, haere atu rā. Oku rau rangatira mā, e kui mā, e koro mā, kua tai mai nei, nau mai, haere mai. Haere mai ki tēnei whare, I runga I te kaupapa tino whakahirahira, nō reira I te iwi ngai tūhoi, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Mr Speaker, I join with my colleagues on this side of the House to support the first reading of the Urewera Tuhoe Bill. And before I go through in detail the bill itself, can I make some acknowledgements to the people of Tuhoe, to thank them for their patience, thank them for their tolerance, thank them for their sacrifice in what today is the beginning of the end of settling your historic grievances. As a former mandated negotiator for Rongo Whakaata, I can only share the celebration, but also the mamae of those kaumātua that were no longer with us who began this process. So to you all, I mihi tēnā tātou katoa. Mr Speaker, the purpose of this bill, the Urewera Tuhoe Bill, gives effect to the deed of settlement signed on the 4th of June 2013, in which the Crown and Tuhoe agreed to the final settlement of the historical Treaty of Waitangi claims for Tuhoe. The deed of settlement sets out in full the redress provided to Tuhoe and settlement of all of their historical claims. In settling these claims, the Crown acknowledges past wrongs and its intentions to put in place the foundation for a constructive future relationship with Tuhoe. It is intended in this bill that it be divided at the committee of the whole House in two parts. Parts 1 to 4, known as the Tuhoe Claims Settlement Bill, and I acknowledge the Minister for bringing this bill to the House and his special acknowledgement of the social agreement of building capacity for Tuhoe people and also providing better government services. And parts 5 to 7, which is known as the Urewera Bill. Tuhoe, Mr Speaker, is New Zealand's 6th largest iwi, with a population of over 32,000 at the 2006 census. The traditional lands of Tuhoe centred on Te Urewera, but over time Tuhoe influence extended to Waikaremoana Moana and Pūtere in the south, and from Kaingaro in the west to Ngātapa in the east. And can I just acknowledge my tipuna who were killed from Rongo Whakaata and thrown off the Ngātapa, and our close relationships with the Tuhoe people. In the north, Tuhoe and other iwi use the resources of Ohewa Harbour. The claims of Tuhoe against the Crown are wide-ranging. They relate to confiscation, raupatu, during the 1860s, Crown military operations in Te Urewera during the 1860s and 70s, which resulted in widespread destruction and loss of life. The impact of the native land laws from the 1870s. Failure to properly implement the Te Urewera District Native Reserve Act, 1896. And Crown purchasing, some of which was illegal. And further loss of land through Crown instigated consolidation schemes. As previous speakers have said, in 1954 the Crown established Te Urewera National Park, which included most of the Tuhoe traditional lands. The Crown did not consult Tuhoe about this and did not recognise Tuhoe as having any special interest in Urewera National Park or its management. Mr. Speaker, Labour supports a reconciliation process of historic breaches by the Crown to Māori. The Waitangi Tribunal and the treaty settlement process are an important part of that process. We acknowledge the commitment and leadership required for iwi to reach an agreement with the Crown and understand that it must be a durable settlement. Each settlement is unique in its redress components that attempt to restore what has been taken and what can be preserved and developed for future generations. And treaty settlements are an important part of our modern identity, and we hope that iwi, the Crown, and our communities will better understand the conflict of our past, the commitment to resolve outstanding grievances, and the hope of a shared future. Mr. Speaker, if I may turn to some of the detail, and I'm looking forward with my colleagues on the Māori Select Committee and also commit to our Chair, Mr. Tauhinari, that we will do all in our possible grasp to ensure that this bill gets through in a speedy fashion in a timely way. But in terms of the settlement package, I'd like to draw our attention, the House's attention, to Part 1 of the bill, which contains a summary of the historic account from the deed of the settlement, the acknowledgements and apology given by the Crown to Tuhoe, and the acceptance by Tuhoe of that apology, and that is important to acknowledge. In writing our own historic account in our Rōwhakata settlement claims, let me say it was an arduous task to getting the historic account right. So I want to acknowledge the work that's been put from Tuhoe and the Crown to ensure that we've got an acknowledgement and apology acceptable to both parties. Part 2 of the bill sets out the cultural redress provided to Tuhoe, including the vesting of 5 cultural redress properties, the provision of 2 protocols, and the appointment of the trustees of Tuhoe to Uru Taumata as a Fisheries Advisory Committee, as well as changes to a small number of geographical names. It also includes Tuhoe as a member of the Rangitaiki River Forum. Part 3 of the bill includes some of the commercial redress that will enable Tuhoe to establish an economic base, including the opportunity to purchase 5 Crown-owned properties within a deferred selection period, subject to their lease back to the Crown, an exclusive right of first refusal over Crown-owned properties within a specified area for 172 years from settlement date. And Part 4 of the bill will assist Tuhoe to consolidate and improve the efficiency of their governance entities, as well as institute a tikanga-based process for selecting trustees to their mandated iwi organisation. It provides for the dissolution of the Tuhoe Waikaremoana Māori Trust Board and the vesting of its assets, and merging of the Tuhoe charitable entities, the Tuhoe Waikaremoana Māori Trust Board Charitable Trust, and the Tuhoe Fisheries Charitable Trust with the Tuhoe Charitable Trust, and recognition of the Tuhoe Charitable Trust as the mandated iwi authority of Tuhoe, and exemption from the requirement in the Māori Fisheries Act 2004 that individual iwi's members must have a vote in the election of trustees. Mr. Speaker, in reading this bill to the House, I'm attracted to the innovation that comes back at me. And I want to acknowledge both you, Minister Finlayson, and the people of Tuhoe, particularly around the Urewera, in giving that important taonga its own wairua and essence in terms of its own legislation, but also the mana motuhake part of this bill. And can I say in my closing summary, I too join with this House to acknowledge the work that's gone ahead. I look forward to this bill coming through Māori Affairs Select Committee, and again stand in support and celebrate this historic day for Ngai Tuhoe. Nō reira, Mr Speaker, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
I call the honourable member to Urewera Flavel. Tēnā koe, Mr Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker, ka nui te mihi kia koe tēnei ata o tira.